We're going to publish a story on Wednesday that says that the number of illicit massage parlors in the state of Oregon has exploded in the past 5 years. We're looking at, according to a national watchdog, something like 270 of them. It's a 25% year-over-year growth rate. Obviously, these are not massage parlors offering massages. They're offering manual sexual release. They're operating in residential neighborhoods in Portland and across the state. What are you going to do about it?
Up and down in I-5. I was just meeting with one of the Safety Compass, which is a anti-human trafficking organization that runs in Clackamas, Multnomah, Marion, and Yamhill. And they brought this to my attention. We talked about it a lot. The massage part of the problem is something that's not an Oregon problem. That's a global program.
Restate the name of that organization.
It's called Safety Compass.
And it's based in Oregon?
Based in Woodburn, but they are sort of an anti-human trafficking provider for Multnomah, Clackamas, Yamhill, and Marion. There might be others, but those are the ones I remember from the conversation yesterday. This is not an Oregon problem. It's a national. It's an international problem. What ends up happening is people are brought here from another country. This happened when I was working in Africa as well. Their documentation is taken from them once they get here. There's all kinds of threats, and they're sort of coerced into doing these. On the front side, they're booked as massages. On the back side, it's pay for sex. These people get very little, if any, of the money, and it's very exploitative. And once police investigate one, it takes the shop down, and they just move it somewhere else, and it becomes this whack-a-mole game. Largely because your local police, they don't have the manpower or the resources to track something that goes across city lines and county lines. It requires a statewide response. We do not have a human trafficking division in our Department of Justice. We have an explosion of human trafficking in our state. There's one full-time position in the Department of Justice, one that deals with human trafficking, and it's a data collection position. It's not an attorney, it's not an investigator, it's not a social worker.
Do you ever know the name of that person by any chance?
Her name's Amanda Swanson, I believe. I'm not sure about the last name. No, I can get it for you, but I think it's Amanda. But we have the Attorney General. We talk about crime being 10%. It's the most important 10%. These are human lives we're talking about, and it's international trafficking, and it's happening in Oregon in our suburban neighborhoods, and our local police just can't keep up with it. There has to be this air traffic control. There has to be this centralized human trafficking division to have any chance at pushing back on that. Yeah.
Dan, can you respond to the same question?
Yeah, and I think, and this has been a really good conversation to talk about. There is the criminal side and there's the civil side, and it has to be a both-and conversation. You can't just do one without the other. And so when it comes into the criminal space, just like if you do this in a very similar way where you have a value set that you're pursuing, and I believe the Attorney General's role is partnering with your local district attorneys and your law enforcement to figure out what are the top issues in the state that you want to curb, to then measure it with outcomes over a period of time so you can actually target that activity and make progress on it. I believe that issues like actually retail theft is a wonderful thing. That is something that is an issue in our communities. We worked on that in the legislature, tightened the laws. That is an area that some attorneys general across the nation are focusing on. Right now in Oregon, drug delivery is one of the top ones for me that would be a progress. This is an area that could fall into an area of human trafficking in a different area where you put an emphasis on that to then curb that in partnership, because you always remembering you have local law enforcement, district attorneys, the Attorney General, and then how do you all best work together to share resources to combat a problem. Drug delivery in the past, and I think it can be very similar, you used to, under Kroger and prior administrations before resources became constrained, they would actually help with local DAs and law enforcement get wiretaps and be able to do other kind of local assist work in the community to then partner who's going to do this. That's the role I see the Attorney General playing for this specific issue, is convening in that space with the resources that you do have at the Department of Justice in the Criminal Justice Division. I think Mr. Lathrop is correct. The Criminal Justice Division is less than 6% of DOJ's overall budget. So I think there is, and we added some resources during the last session, again, to really tackle the drug delivery. I think that should also be reevaluated, and are there other resources that need to be made to then partner up on different, if you want to have a multi-front partnership to tackle some of these issues.
I still don't feel like you're really answering my question about human trafficking and massage parlors.
No, and maybe I didn't make myself clear because I believe I answered it very directly.
I didn't hear the word massage parlors. I didn't hear the word human trafficking. So
I said trafficking. It's recorded. But what we would talk about is when you go and you partner with a group, and so you're tackling an issue. So in this case, human trafficking. What you would do in this situation is you are partnering with local law enforcement, your district attorneys, using the resources of the Department of Justice. Again, to go back to the analogy, what is the best allocation of resources to target that behavior in our communities to reduce it? Some cases, most of it will be done on the local level. Maybe you're providing assisting with kind of filing, as I mentioned, in wiretaps or different areas along those lines. And so you're convening people to target a behavior very similarly the way that you would do with drug delivery as well. And that, I believe, should be a product of a conversation that should happen with all of the DAs and law enforcement to say, what are, over the next couple of years, what are the activities that we want to curb in our communities? And human trafficking, from what I can gather in the conversations I have, would rise to the top. Although right now, if you have the conversations, drug delivery is the one that tops all conversations.
I don't think my opponent actually knows how the criminal justice system works or how this all interplays together. The DAs aren't over the law enforcement. That's not how any of this works. And if you go into a place like Madras and you say as an attorney general, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to trust your local police and your DAs to deal with these massage parlors when they come in. Very economically depressed. They already have lots of other forms of crime. They don't have the sophistication to take on what is really an international entity that's putting massage parlors all across the United States and really targeting Oregon. It requires an actual frontline response from the Attorney General, who's charged to run point on all organized crime, that includes drug trafficking. It includes human trafficking, it includes organized retail theft, and many times those three things are actually closely and tightly related. So if you're looking at a bottom-down approach, I'm going to pat people on the back and give them support on the bottom level and expect them to take on these large international entities. That is a fiction. It's a dream. It will never happen. The Attorney General has to run point, and the person running the point has to actually understand these industries and know something about human trafficking to have any chance of actually winning that war. That's just true.
Okay. I agree with you. I think we're passing in the night in the way we're talking about it.